Hey everybody, this has been a big washout video night for me. I just sat here and shot like 15 minutes of video only to find out I did not press record. So I didn't actually record anything, and the whole point was just for me to sit here and get some video in case the red-tailed loach that I have in this tank that is so reclusive actually comes out. When he comes out, all he does is dart out right where that big snakeskin gourami is. Comes out sort of where the gourami's head is now, and then makes a U-turn and goes in sort of where the gourami's head is now. And that's it. He comes out and he darts around that rock and he goes right back in. So I just sat here and I did a nice 15-minute video where I talked about fish food and my thoughts on fish food and feeding your fish, etc. And of course I stopped and I went to preview the video and I couldn't find it, and I checked my gallery and I couldn't find it there either, and I checked my memory card, and eventually I realized I just must not have hit the record button. So I gave my basement a nice little nice little 15-minute discussion about fish food and so on and so forth. And then 10 seconds after I stopped recording, bold as brass, the loach came out and did a big swim across the front of the tank for us. So you didn't get either. You didn't get my discussion about fish food, and you did not get my look at the damn red-tailed loach that's in there. He is indeed still alive. I was actually saying at the beginning of the other video that I was getting kind of worried about him. I haven't seen him in a while. I know he's reclusive, but I usually see him, you know, from time to time. Every few days I'll get a glimpse of him. And I've sort of been talking about him here recently, and in all the time I've been talking about him, I've not yet seen him. So I was starting to get a little concerned. It's been about a week since I've seen him. And then, of course, I just saw him as soon as I stopped filming. So I suppose I could, there he is. Let's see if he comes out. Yes, there he is, everybody. That is my red-tailed loach. Yay. I've been waiting a week to get that on video, and that's it. I mean, if we sit here and keep on chatting, he might come out and make another little appearance. And I just checked, and I am indeed recording this time, so that's good. I've had a very rough couple of days. We're just now getting dug out from the blizzard of 16. I'm sore from head to toe. I just ache from all the digging and shoveling. And of course, walking through, 20 inches of snow just puts a workout on your whole body anyway. It's just been a rough couple of days. So I'm exhausted. I'm out of it, and I don't really feel like shooting anything, too official. I just kind of sat down on that other video and just started yammering on about whatever. And it turned into a video about fish food, and then I didn't record it, so then it sort of turned into this, whatever the hell this is going to be. So I will start talking about fish food again. I'll go back through my little rant, and that way maybe you can get another look at him if he decides to come back out. In fact, I'm going to do what I did in the other video, which was stop the first part of it, and then I was going to start recording again after I put some food in the tank, and that's when I failed to record the second half of it. So let's hope you get the second half of this video, and I'm going to go ahead and try to put some food in there that will entice that loach back out, and then we can actually get back into my discussion of what I was saying about my thoughts on feeding your fish and the types of fish food you use. So I'll be right back, hopefully. Right, and I remembered this time. What I dropped in there this time is sinking shrimp pellets, and there's actually some floating cichlid pellets mixed in. I don't know why they're mixed together in the same container, but they are. So I either have to sort through them and pick the ones I want, or just throw a handful in. Some sink and some stay at the top. And in this case it's fine, because the gouramis will work on the ones up at the top, and the ones that sunk will be a feast for the loaches at the bottom. You can already see the skunks are coming over. So hopefully that redtail will come back out. Now, what I was saying in the other video was about how I often get asked questions about fish food, and I get asked what I use and what brands do I use, and etc., etc. And I always just tell people, use a good high quality food, and that's my answer. And I get follow-up questions about what brand and what kind and this and that, and it always just kind of amazes me and how much stress and worry people put into something like fish food like that. I often wonder, how they actually feed their children or themselves. Do they ever eat anything other than 100% pure organic, macrobiotic, antibiotic free. Where do you draw the line between like eating food that's decent food and just completely stressing out about whether it's the tippy top, highest quality, everything you can imagine? Like, most people don't even treat themselves that way, but they're going to stress out over their fish. I just, that doesn't really make any sense to me. That's, again, a point where you're actually going to lose enjoyment in the hobby if you stress out about stuff like that. Don't feed them brand X, no name, any kind of food that claims it's good for all fish and stuff like that. Get a good quality stuff. But, if you're buying Omega 1, or if you're buying Marineland or Tetra, 6 of one, half dozen the other, as far as I'm concerned. If you're a breeder, if you show your fish, etc., then you're not who I'm talking to when it comes to this kind of stuff. You've actually got reason to do that. The foods I use are generally one of those name brands. I usually use Marineland. Depends on what what it is. I use Tetra for the sinking granules. I really like them. I use Marineland. I use Fluval occasionally. The sinking wafer, the sinking granules, or pellets, shrimp pellets we just put in there are actually Fluval. The one food I will say that I would recommend would be Hikari algae wafers. They're really good. Everybody loves them. Fish you would not think that would eat them. My Tenopoma will go down on the bottom and pick up pieces of the Hikari algae wafers. So they're really good, high quality food for all your fish. The key thing is how you feed and when you feed is more important to me than splitting hairs over which, high quality name brand is the tippy top best quality name brand. My philosophy on feeding, and some people may disagree with me on this, and I'm not at any point suggesting I don't overfeed my fish. I do. I know I do. But you can still feed the way I do without overfeeding. And that is by feeding several small times a day rather than one large time a day, or even 2 medium-sized times a day. And my philosophy on that is simply mimicking nature. These fish don't swim around in their native habitat devoid of food and then get a huge meal every evening or morning. They forage all day long, and they're constantly finding food and little bits of this and that, and occasionally they get lucky and they get an insect off the surface. And that's the way these fish eat in the real world. So for me to feed 5 or 6 times a day and just put a little pinch in here and a little pinch in there, I think is a much better way of feeding them. And again, my little pinches are usually more heavy-handed than I'm making it sound, and that's why I have these big fat gouramis. But again, if you want big fat gouramis and big beautiful colorful fish, you got to feed them a lot. You're not going to have big fat fish like me if you don't feed them the way I do. That's another thing I get asked a lot about, how my fish get so big and how they're so beautiful, and you got to feed them. You put a little tiny pinch of food in there every morning, and that's all you feed your fish. I promise you, you will never have big fat huge gouramis like these. These fish are well fed. I don't really think I need to point that out too much. These are some fat girls in there. My striped Raphael is getting so fat he can barely even get out from underneath of that. Now, I also pointed out before that there is a cost to having heavily stocked tanks. There's a cost to being very heavy-handed when you feed. I get the reward, but I got to pay the price, and I got to do a lot of tank maintenance. And I mean, you can see all the growth and everything in there. There's a lot of nutrients in this tank. A lot of water changes involved with this tank. But for me, that's fine. I don't mind because I've got these big, beautiful fish and I love every one of them. The other thing I will say it is important when it comes to fish food is you need to remember the needs of each type of fish. The needs of these gouramis are very different than the needs of that Chinese butterfly fish or that hillstream loach, if you prefer, on the bottom. These loaches have very different food needs than the gouramis do. So you got to make sure you're meeting the needs of all the animals, and whether that be specific dietary needs or its feeding habits. Some fish are very shy feeders. Some fish will only feed off the surface. Some fish only feed at night. You have to take those things into consideration. And lastly, you need to give them a variety of food in their diet. Don't just feed them pellets all the time. Don't just feed them flakes all the time. Mix it up. Give them plenty of protein if they're a protein-loving fish. Again, we're looking at my gourami tank. You have to be careful with the protein with the gouramis. They're primarily vegetarians in the wild. They can eat protein, so don't be afraid of it. Just don't overdo it. They need much more vegetable material than they do protein material. But again, you make sure they get that protein material. You make sure they get plenty of vegetable material. And in this tank, I provide them with all that floating vegetation. And the gouramis, as you're watching them right now, they just sit up there all day and munch on the roots of this water sprite, which is another reason I have such fat gouramis. They can pretty much self-feed all day long. I guess that's all the points I have to make. Oh, I don't know. I can't think of anything else that was involved about the food I was talking about. I guess we're not going to get another look at my loach. I've been kind of keeping an eye out off to the side of the camera here, hoping I would get a look at him coming out, but apparently we're not going to. So I'll just go ahead and wrap that up. I'm just going to call this my thoughts on fish food, and we did get a really brief look at my red-tail loach. Maybe I'll splice a little chunk here and at the end, and I'll do it in slow motion or something for all of those of you that have been patient enough to sit down and watch this whole rambling, wandering video. You'll get your little reward at the end, and I'll put a little section in there with that loach, a little more slow motion for you.